What's up, everybody? Joe Carroll here. I was able to play a new game that's coming out called Argent Saga, and I just kind of wanted to put my thoughts down while they're kind of fresh in my mind here. I I can't decide how I really feel about this game, so what I decided to do was make a pros and cons list, or like a good and bad, or not necessarily bad, but just like things that I thought could be better or different, or things that I just didn't like. And I want to preface this all by saying I only played 3 games. I played 3 different decks, and it was for only maybe an hour or two, and then we kind of had a group discussion afterwards. So this is my first take. You know, I've seen the game, I've heard it talked about, but I'd never played it. I didn't exactly know how all the rules went, but yeah, so I just, again, this is just my opinion. This is just my initial knee jerk reaction. And they were starter decks that were printed out on paper. They weren't actually like, I mean, a lot of these cards might be changing, the art might be changing. So I realize this is like an alpha, beta, whatever you want to call it, build before the game's even, officially released. So take that with a grain of salt. If I say anything that upsets people, I understand. These are scary waters that I'm wading out into right now. But so let's just dive into it here. I'll start off with the good things that I liked. I love games that take the randomness or luck, if you will, out of your resources. I quit playing Magic the Gathering for this reason. I became a Force Will player because I loved that the stone deck or the resource deck was separate from your main deck. I hated mulliganing into Oblivion because you only get one land, or whatever game you're playing. And that's one thing this game does well. It does have they're called shards. Let me put this up for you guys. I assume because they don't just have a counter that the game's not going to just be basic shards. There's going to eventually be shards that do things when they come into play, or there's a lot of things they can do with it, but it seems like there's no real colors, because all the basic shards pay for everything no matter what color deck you're having. So the restrictions on deck building are going to be taking place in other areas, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But anyway, very big positive. The resources in this game are not random. It's not, I hope I get lucky and draw enough lands or anything like that. So that was really cool. The second thing I really liked, the art is a lot better than I expected. A lot of these cards, I know these are just scans, but when I was sitting in front of them and I was looking at the cards, they do look nice. The art is, it's got a flavor to it, a style. I for one prefer digital art, so I actually liked it more than I thought I would. Usually, games that have huge budgets can afford the really good artists, and whoever they hire to do these, I can't even say the name of the artist on this, so I'm not going to try, but he did a good job, or she. So yeah, that was definitely a plus for me. However, well, I'll get into that, the negative side about that later. The champions, okay? Here's some of the champions. They have some cool abilities. I played the blue deck. I played this guy, and I played the green deck, this one, and I played the red deck. And all the abilities felt super interactive. They felt fun. This guy reminded me of Grimm from Force of Will. You pitch a fairy tale and go get a fairy tale. This guy, you pitch a dragon, go get a dragon. And it was really good. There were a lot of turns I was doing this. And it felt cool. It felt fun. So I did enjoy that. And then every deck has a champion, and then it also has a rune. And I also want to say that I'm not going to go into the mechanics of the game too much. If you haven't learned how to play this game or seen it, There are tutorial videos. I highly recommend you go watch those, or meet up with some cool guys that are putting up their time and money to drive around and show people how to play the game. We have Matt Cosmore in our area that's doing that, and just go to the Argent Saga page and see if anyone's doing it in your area, and they'll show you how to play. So moving on, the second thing each deck has that starts in play is a spirit. So this is one. It's a bad scan. I apologize, but basically think of it like it's the second thing to your champion. They all seem to have like something you can do once per turn, only on your turn, and then if you need like an extra ability, it has one more, but you got to flip the card over, and you're not able to use it the rest of the game. So yeah, think of it like that. For the red one, the spirit, it's discard a red card and deal 500 to something, which is pretty dang good if you need to get some extra damage through. And then you can flip it over to give something haste or quickness, or the ability to attack the turn it comes into play, and that is really solid. So that whole interaction with the spirit and the champion, I am digging that. I don't know if Force of Will kind of spoiled me in that I want to pay some resources to flip this guy over and then start attacking with him. I understand not every game can do that, but anyway, it was fun. Like that part, I think I enjoyed the most of the game. Unfortunately, that is going to wrap up pretty much the things that stood out to me as the game, what it did really well. So we're going to get into some of the cons. And again, I'm just going to preface this. It's just one afternoon. It's just the base starter decks. I understand there's a whole set coming out, I think in August. So it was very limited card pool, and yeah, I understand. So first things first, when I first saw the cards, I thought this, and I stuck with the same thought today. I'm not a fan of the borders. They kind of look generic to me, and it's hard to tell the difference between, like, if I just kind of scroll through, like, tell me what's a champion, what's a spell, and what's like a creature or a resonator or unit, or like at first glance it's kind of hard to tell. So to me that was a little. I did like how you see the 1000 on that. That is like the power, in that it did get easier to see over time. So you don't want to take away from the art and make it too big, but I don't know. There's just something about the border that and the thing is, when we were playing, I took the champion and I slipped the paper out because it was printed, and underneath was the actual real card. But it was an older version. The older version of the champion actually had like a gold border that kind of made the card stand out a little bit more. And I think they got rid of it to make more room for the text, to make the text bigger. I'm not sure about that, but anyway, I won't go too much time onto that. With the resources, the next con on my list here was a bit basic. And now I understand they're probably gonna make more. Like a game that I was kind of comparing it to would be like World of Warcraft. You could put any card face down to make it like a land, but then there were cards called quests that like you'd put them into play face up, and then they would tap for a resource, but then they would also have like pay 2 and flip this over, draw a card, or something that it did like separately. So I assume they're going to be doing something like that, but it just it just felt like there was no variety. Like it really didn't matter what you were flipping over. It just felt more like it could have been a spin dial. It would have been the same thing. But again, that might just be because the game is in the early stages and they're just starting with keeping things basic. So totally understandable. So not a huge con. Okay, here's the part where I'm really torn. The game doesn't have life totals. It has towers, and you get 5 of them. And so far, all the decks have had the same 5, and you have one of each color. So I'm not a fan of randomness when I play card games. And the thing that got to me, and here are the towers. I'll just kind of scroll through them while I talk. So I played a game online called the Elder Scrolls Legends, and it had kind of like the Force of Will break mechanic, where every time you lose 5 life, you draw a card, and then if that card happened to have this thing called Prophecy, you got to play it for free. So what that did was make aggro decks like just not want to attack, and it really changed how you wouldn't want to break a rune until you had enough resources to deal with whatever spell or creature they would get for free. And it just kind of, there were some cards that were utterly broken that would just ruin things. I mean, you would just lose because you broke the rune and they got lucky and they got that one card. So that's kind of like a random factor. Now, when you're playing this game, all these towers are face down, so you don't know which one, and you have to pick which one you're attacking, because again, they don't have a life total. So what you do is you attack it. Now notice these things all have like a power level. Now the highest they're going to be is 1500. Some of these will break with just a simple 1000. Most 1-drops I've seen have 1000 power or more. There are a few that only have 500. So basically what you would do is you would attack a tower with a 5 just to flip it up and see what it is and know that you're not going to break it. So it's called scouting, is basically what everyone in the room was calling it. Yeah, I'll scout that one, because they know they're not gonna blow anything up, because none of these have 500. They're either 1000 or 15. Now, like this one, for instance, when it's flipped up, you destroy a unit. Like, let's say you played the turn, and you spent, I don't know, 3 or 4 resources to put out one unit, and then you attack the wrong thing and it blows up. Now, yes, I understand you should attack first and see what happens and then play your unit, but like late in the game, you hit the wrong one. It can just be devastating. This one puts a 200 power Guardian into play. Guardian means you can block. That's another thing that we'll get into. As far as blocking goes, that I kind of disagree with. But real quick before we do that, I want to talk about, while we're on the subject of the towers, is that you don't have a life total. Okay, so they break the 5 towers, and then you hit the player once, and they're dead. They lose. In games like Magic or Force of Will, you have a life total, and you get to use it as a resource. And when I say that, a lot of Control players will know exactly what I'm talking about, because there are times where you have to be okay going to 1 life, or going to like 1 swing away from dying. And a lot of times there'll be cards that will gain you life, or you can put drain on something and get back into the game after you stabilize, and you go like 3 or 4 for 1, wiping their board, and then you have a huge advantage at that point. In this game, you can't do that. Like, the best you can do is be okay with them breaking a few towers and having the towers proc the right way. Like, say you get low on cards, like you might want the blue tower to break. Say they're aggressive, an aggressive deck, you can bounce 2 of their creatures back to their hand. So like you can kind of play that way where you're using the towers as your resource, but it's only 6 attacks. That's my point. It's not. And then getting to my next point, I'll tell you why I don't think 6 attacks is that many. Like, it felt like hardly anything had Guardian. I played the green deck, and the green deck has this awesome ability to it's like a breeding pod, where you're destroying a unit and you're putting something that costs 1 more into play. And there's also things like return something to your hand with the spirit, and you can put stuff into play like on their turn. But the point is, I really wanted them to attack something and then me sacrifice it and put something into play and block. But I kept forgetting this isn't Force of Will. You can't just block with anything. It has to have Guardian. Okay, it has to. Let's see. Any of these have Guardian? This one does. Okay. So, like, the green deck had. I just did not enjoy it. It had this cool mechanic with the spirit, and it had a cool mechanic with the champion, but it just didn't do anything. Like, I got behind, and then I had to start attacking his units, after they were tapped. You can attack a tapped unit. So I got down to like one or two towers, and I'm like, okay, now I'm starting to clear his board, except I can't attack his towers because that'll put him right back into the game. I can't afford to have him make me discard a card. I can't afford to hit the fire tower and then lose my best unit, or I just could not afford to attack at all. The only thing I could attack were things that were tapped. So all he had to do was play a few units, not do anything with them so that they would remain untapped, and then the next turn attack me, and I have nothing in the deck that had guard or guardian. So I just had to let him hit my towers. There was literally nothing I could do. So to me, if they make enough guardian like units, I think what that will do is kind of control our deck building in a sense, because like you're gonna need enough to not die, and there's not a ton of removal, so you can't just sit there and remove stuff. And the black deck, man, that deck, it just keeps pumping dudes into play and reanimating. Like, that deck was so strong. Like, it was very hard to beat, and in fact I lost to it twice. So yeah, that deck was just insane. But that's beside the point. The point I'm trying to make here is it felt like either there needs to be, like, most things need to have Guardian, or they need to get rid of it and just let you block. If I pay 3 for a 2,000 power creature that does something, I should be able to chump block. Like, I don't know. It just felt so weird. Like in other games, you can play a 3/6. Yeah, you're not going to be like killing anyone fast with it, but it's a great blocker, and yeah, it'll die to a Lancelot or whatever. But I don't know. To me, it just felt like there was definitely something missing there. Moving on. So yeah, I put down I didn't like the luck factor with which tower you're breaking. Now, if you have a deck that's scouting, where you have, like I said, that 500. Let's see if we have any. See, like this is a one drop that this is gonna break most of the towers. But yeah, you need something that only has. Yeah, I don't think I have anything here. But if it only has 500, you can just flip the tower over and it won't break. So with the stat line, only having power and not having like attack and defense, I feel like there's not a lot they can do. Most of the flavor is going to come with the cost, whether or not the unit has Guardian, and what abilities it has. Like, you can only make so many 1,000 and 2,000 power creatures, for 2. Like, there's only so much variation on that. Now, if you had attack and defense, you could make it a 1,000, 2,000. You can make it a 1,000, 1,000. You can make it a 1,500. You got what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot more variation you could do, and that would make the combat, to me, more interesting as far as attacking unit to unit. Because attacking towers was just like, okay, let's pull that slot machine lever and see what happens. Because I don't know, it just like, I'm attacking with a 1,500 attack, power. I know it's breaking. So am I losing a guy? Am I discarding a card? Are you getting a really big guardian? I don't know. But it felt to me, so the con here, it felt to me like the stat line really only mattered when you're attacking another unit. Like the whole tower thing was just like, again, like you're either scouting it or you're breaking it, and the difference between scouting and breaking is like hardly any of the creatures were 500 and they cost 1. So like if any of your creatures, or sorry, your units cost 2 or more, they're breaking. And then beyond that, it really only felt like it mattered. Like, okay, what's that guy? He's a 2,000. Well, my guy's a 25. So I guess I'll swing into him. And that was really the only time it really mattered. And again, there wasn't much variation in the power levels. It felt very standardized. And again, I understand this is a base set, and it's, so they're trying to keep everything equal. But honestly, the black deck felt quite overpowered, and the green deck felt like it just couldn't do anything. It felt like you were doing a ton of work to get not much done. Okay, so the last few things I have here, deck building, it feels very linear. So for instance, this card you can only use as your spirit if you're a mono blue deck, or if you see that 8 on the top left corner. If you say you're playing a black deck and you want to have this be your spirit, you have to play exactly 8 cards in your deck that are blue. No more, no less. So I guess the way they're getting around not having like colored mana or resources, because then you could just like, why not just play the best cards from all 5 colors if it doesn't matter? Well, this is why. Like, you can only play 8 cards and get that spirit. So, and the spirits, like I said, the interaction between the spirit and the champions, it's pretty huge. Like, you kind of need that to win the game. Like the black deck for sure. Oh man, like getting to put a golem into play, and yeah, it's that was how they won pretty much every time. Was like end step, get that golem, and then attack you in the face for the win. So anyway, deck building, I'm not sure how it's going to work, but it feels a lot more linear than, say, I'm going to build a 2-colored magic deck, and I like this card and that card. I'm going to get greedy and play a card that has a double red cost in it, and even though half my lands don't produce red, that's going to be greedy. But the card is powerful enough, so I'll just, I'll risk that and do it. In this game, it just feels like, okay, here's your card pool that you get to use. Do you want to use 2 colors? Okay, here's your even more limited card pool, and then, so, but again, I don't know. They might change some things. I could have had the deck building, it could have been misspoken to me, or I'm misunderstanding it, but I think that's how it works. So if that is the way it goes, it felt confined. Like the overall feeling of the game felt small and confined. Like you have your 5 towers, you can only play 5 units. I don't know if anyone's, if you guys know that, but you can only play 5. So if you play another one, you have to sacrifice 1. I've never played a game like that. That's not digital, where like there's a limit to how many you can play. I've never seen that. So I don't know if I like that or if I don't. Again, and like as I'm going through all this stuff, there were a lot more things I didn't like, but then again, I was going in trying to nitpick because I want to figure out if I like this game. Like I did have fun. I was hanging out with friends, and I, got to play a new game. I just don't know. And one thing and I'm wondering what you guys think is, as far as like the art goes, like I'm not a collector, but if I were, a game needs to like wow me. There needs to be cards that you see that are so damn cool that like you just have to own it. That's the way like the cards, will get the individual price hikes. And everyone liked the Mistletoe, alternate art. They loved that card, so it was like $75 or some garbage like that. But my point is, like, if they do full arts, which I think they are, I think Jim spoiled something that he was thinking about doing before they send to the printers, but like that could definitely help. You know, like this card I think does look cool. The problem again to me is the champions do look too similar to the other cards. It doesn't really stand out. Again, the ability on it, super fun. Like synergistic all the way, super fun. Green obviously needs something it can block with, but as far as the art goes, a foil one of these isn't going to make me, you know, shell out $40 because I want my ruler to look pimped out. Like, I can't see that. Again, I'm not a collector, but I will admit there have been some Magic cards and there have been some Force of Will cards that I just paid the extra money because I really liked the way the alternate looked, or I liked the foil or the full art. My 7 Disciples in Force of Will were foil and full art, and yeah, it just, there was something cool about it that were, you know, it was worth the extra money for. So that being said, that pretty much sums up everything that I wanted to talk about. You guys can let me know what you think in the comments or hit me up on Facebook. I will say, like, closing thoughts, I am excited for this game. I am excited to see what they do with it. I happen to personally know a few of the people who are working on it, and a bunch of you do, because this, you know, this isn't some huge corporation far away with people we, you know, have never heard of. So, you know, this is kind of like a hometown game, but for me, it has to get bigger than that. Like, it has to grow and have the potential. And one thing that I am very happy that they're doing is they seem to care the most about their player base. They ask questions, they talk to us. It's not like, you know, with Force of Will where they just fire everyone and disappear and don't say anything to anyone. So, well, at least let's hope that doesn't happen. And I don't want to, you know, I'm not here to just talk garbage about Force of Will, but let's be honest, that was not cool what they did, and it makes all the player base wonder what's happening with the game. So a positive for Argent Saga is that they definitely seem to care about having a pro tour, having a reason to go to get more people interested, and having a competitive scene, because you're not going to have the casual scene without the competitive scene, in my opinion. I mean, a game can't sustain without that. So, you know, hats off to them for showing up front and being transparent about that's what they care about. Now I just, you know, and again, all of my points that I made might be that I'm just misunderstanding how the game is played, although the person who taught me was very clear and, you know, good at giving instruction, and I've played a lot of card games for a long time, so it doesn't take me long to pick up. So yeah, that being said, those are my opening thoughts, and yeah, let me know what you guys think. Thanks for stopping by.